Everyone, I just want to share some good news with you, and you guys kind of be the judge about what's going on with this whole Paul Manafort indictment and this stupid Russian collusion witch hunt that uh, Bob Mueller, Robert Mueller, has been tasked with as far as trying to indict and impeach our president of the United States. But look at this from Proverbs 26, verse 27, from the Good News translation. Again, this is good news. People who set traps for others get caught themselves. People who start landslides get crushed. And you can kind of see all the different versions. But I also want to read a commentary in this tool called BibleHub.com. If I can find it, it is right here. Gill's exposition of the entire Bible. Whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein. That deviseth mischief against others, it shall come upon himself. The allusion is to the digging of pits for catching wild beasts which are slightly covered with earth, and which sometimes the pursuers through inadvertency fall into themselves. The passage seems to be taken from Psalm 7:15. And then it goes on to say in verse 27, and in this commentary, and he that rolleth a stone, it will return upon him that rolls a stone uphill. If he does not take care, it will return back and fall with great force upon himself. Sorry, don't mean to laugh, but it's just kind of an interesting visual. So the mischief which a wicked man labors hard at, as men do in digging a pit or rolling a stone uphill. Basically, the idea of starting a landslide or rolling stones up to height and then letting it drop on the enemy, in time rolls back upon themselves. The measure they mete out to others is measured to them. But I want to share just a couple of video clips. Again, this is all over the internet, mainstream media, which I call fake stream media, and then a few other sources. But check this out, and I'm going to save the best for last. Let's see here. This is Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch.
In that case, Judge T.S. Ellis in Virginia, he's been on the bench a long time. He was appointed by Ronald Reagan, so he's been on there for decades, and he's seen it all, especially if you've been on the court as long as Judge Ellis has been. And as according to the news stories, he challenged the Manafort case. He challenged Mueller. He suggested the special counsel was lying and just going after Manafort to get at President Trump. Pretty incredible stuff. According to the Politico, Josh Gerstein did the report. I don't see what relation this indictment has with what the special counsel is authorized to investigate. You don't really care about Mr. Manafort's bank fraud. What you really care about is what information Mr. Manafort could give you that would reflect on Mr. Trump or lead to his prosecution or impeachment. There you go. You had a federal judge call out Mueller for the dishonesty of his investigation. That people like Manafort aren't being targeted because of his crimes, allegedly. It's because of his association with President Trump. And this is the fundamental abuse of the special counsel process. It's what's troubling generally about many prosecutions at the federal level, where they go after people and come down on them with like a ton of bricks as they get others up the chain, or targeted people up the chain, so to speak. And I know when it happens to mafia figures and drug kingpins, people don't care much about it. But we've got to be sensitive when we've got crooks, when we've got the targeting of alleged crooks like Manafort that would never have otherwise happened but for their association with a political figure.
Here's another one from a guy named Dick Morris that I've been following on Facebook. Check out what he has to say.
But for the Virginia ones, Ellis just went crazy against the special prosecutor. He said, I don't see what relationship this indictment has with anything the special counsel is authorized to investigate. He said, it's unlikely you're going to persuade me that the special counsel has unfettered power to do whatever he wants. And he said, our investigative scope does cover the activity in the indictment, the counsel said. And then the judge replied, cover bank fraud in 2005 and 2007? Tell me how. The judge said, why is a run-of-the-mill bank fraud case with no reference to any Russian individual or any Russian bank jurisdiction for the special prosecutor? Couldn't it just be handled regularly by the U.S. attorney in Virginia? And that is the first time anyone has publicly stepped up and said Mueller is exceeding his jurisdiction. And now that Ellis has done that, I think other people will. Now, don't think the...
So what Dick just said here, I am praying will happen, is that more people will question and call for the cease and desist of this investigation, which is just problematic all the way around. It is a witch hunt. It is a way to try to impeach our president, and it is unfortunately wasting just untold millions of taxpayer dollars. It's going absolutely nowhere, and it's time for this nonsense to stop. I want to share one more clip. I saved the best for last. Believe it or not, the Crooked News Network, the corrupt news network, is actually reporting on this as well. And so, again, there's hope. I think that the whole narrative is falling apart and has been falling apart. It seems the harder they try, the worse it gets. But now even CNN, Crooked News Network, is actually reporting some aspect of the truth. So check this out.
Within a short time, we have sharp legal questions from a federal judge in the court case against the former Trump campaign chairman, Paul Manafort. The judge questioning the authority whether the special counsel was in a broad overreach of his mandate trying to pressure Mr. Manafort. Shimon Prokopez joins us with the highlights of that hearing. Shimon, what did the judge say and how significant is this?
John, a pretty stunning development here in that the judge really challenging the special counsel, the prosecutors in court there today. This was a hearing brought by Paul Manafort's attorney seeking to dismiss some of these charges, and really stunning words from the prosecutor here, Judge Ellis. He's known to be somewhat conservative in the Eastern District of Virginia. And let me just tell you, get right to what he said here. And here's how it went. Basically, the judge, in response to something the prosecutor had said, told him, you don't really care about Mr. Manafort's bank fraud case. Bank fraud. Prosecutors, basically saying the prosecutors were interested in Manafort because of what he could provide that would lead potentially to Trump's prosecution or impeachment. That's what you're really interested in, the judge said to the prosecutor. And then he went on to really say, kind of review what Manafort's attorneys have been arguing all along, in that this case had nothing to do with collusion or Russian interference in the election. And here's what the judge had to say about that. And this was also in response to an argument from the prosecutor. And the judge says that none of that information has to do with information related to Russian government coordination and the campaign of Donald Trump. Now, John, as you know, Manafort's attorneys have been arguing this point since this case was brought, saying that this had nothing to do with the Russia investigation, that this was an overreach by the special counsel. But of course,
Okay, so there you have it. So keep praying, and my prayer for you, for those of you who are watching this, is that you pray according to what you've just heard and seen, and that we stand in agreement that all this nonsense of witch hunt and this false narrative of collusion and interference with the Russians interfering with the election, enabling President Donald Trump to win the election. It's just all crazy nonsense. The worst part of it is that you and I, once again, as taxpayers, are paying untold millions of dollars the longer this thing goes on. All right. Feel free to share, like, and comment below. Talk to you later.